I am 70 years old, and I need to tell you something that took me too long to learn so that it does not take you as long. I spent years at war with my own age. Nobody knew it. I carried it the way you carry it, privately, politely, in the small moments. The flinch at the mirror in bad light. The photograph I did not want taken. The birthday I smiled through like a man at his own sentencing. The moment in the store window reflection when I saw an old man and realized with that little drop in the chest that he was me. You know that drop. Everyone your age knows that drop, and nobody speaks of it, and the whole culture around us makes it worse every single day, because you and I grew up in a world that decided aging is a disease. Fight it, hide it, reverse it. Anti-aging, they print on the bottles. Anti, as if time itself were the enemy, as if the years you have lived are a stain to be scrubbed. And so we war. Millions of us, quietly warring against the one thing that was never once, in the entire history of the world, defeated. Tonight I want to tell you how my war ended. Not how I won it, hear me. Nobody wins it. How it ended. Because my people never fought this war at all. In the old way, growing old was not a defeat. It was an arrival, and the elders were not the ruins of the camp. They were its treasury, and somewhere between my grandmother's fire and my own 70th year, I finally understood what the old ones knew, and the mirror stopped being an enemy, and the birthdays stopped being sentencings, and I made peace, real peace, the kind I can stand in front of you tonight and mean. So let me hand you the treaty, the native way to make peace with getting older. It has 4 parts, and the first one begins with the worst lie you were ever told. The first part of the peace is this: you must see the lie and see who sold it to you, because you cannot make peace while you believe the war is real. The lie is that aging is loss and only loss. Say it plainly and you can already feel it is planted, not natural. And ask the old question my people asked of every strange idea that arrived. Who profits? Who profits from you believing your age is a disease? Look around, my friend. An entire world of sellers profits. The creams, the procedures, the products, the endless industries that live on your flinch at the mirror, that need the flinch, that manufacture the flinch, because a woman at peace with her face buys nothing, and a man at peace with his years cannot be sold his youth back. You have been marketed into a war with yourself. Hear that. The war in you was built on purpose by people who collect rent on your self-rejection. My grandmother never once in her long life apologized for her age, and I asked her in my vain middle years how she escaped it, and she looked at me with genuine puzzlement, and she said, "Escaped what, grandson?" Nobody in her world had ever taught her that her years were shameful. The shame was not in her water. She had grown up where the old were the honored ones, where a long life was the achievement, where you would no more hide your years than a warrior would hide his victories, and so the mirror never once struck at her because nobody had ever armed it. Understand what that means for you. The flinch you feel is not truth rising up in you, it is training. And training at any age can be seen, named, and refused. That is the first piece, not learning to bear the shame, seeing that the shame was never yours, it was sold to you, and tonight, at whatever age you are allowed to stop buying. And I will give you the moment I first saw the difference between her world and ours, because it has never left me. I was a boy, and a visitor came through, a woman from the city, kind enough, and she was speaking with my grandmother, and at some point, meaning it as a compliment, the way such things are always meant, she said, "You must have been very beautiful when you were young." And the porch went quiet in a way I did not understand then. And my grandmother, who was never once unkind to a guest, smiled at her and said gently, "When I was young I was pretty. Now I am beautiful." It took me a very long time to grow into that. And the visitor laughed, unsure, thinking it was a joke, and my grandmother let her think so, because correcting a guest twice is not the old way. But I asked her about it after, and she told me the difference, and I give it to you as she gave it to me. She said, "Pretty is what the face is before it has been anywhere. Beautiful is what it becomes after it has been through everything and kept its light. Pretty is the seed packet, grandson, with the picture on the front. Beautiful is the garden in September." Only a person raised very strangely, she said, would stand in a September garden, heavy with everything it had grown, and weep that it no longer looked like the picture on the packet. Hear that, you who flinch at the mirror. You are not a faded picture of a seed packet. You are the September garden, and the world that taught you to mourn yourself was raised very strangely indeed. Its judgment of your face is not information, it is illness, and it is the world's illness, and you are no longer required to catch it. So that is the first part of the treaty. Sign the moment you see the lie for what it is. But seeing the lie about aging is only the beginning, because there is still the body itself, the real aches, the real mirror, the real slowing, and no treaty holds that skips over the territory where the war was actually fought. So the peace must go to the body next, and it can, and the old way knows the road. Before I share the next teaching, I need to tell you something. I am not going to be here forever, and most of what I know was never written anywhere. So I sat down and I wrote it, all of it, 20 teachings, 4 parts, in the order they were meant to be received. The ones about the arrival the world calls decline. The ones about standing in your years the way the old ones stood in theirs. The ones I have never said on camera. It is called the native way, and it costs less than 1 dinner you will not remember. Scan the code on your screen or look in the comments, but do not leave yet. Because the second part of the piece is about your body, the aches, the slowing, the changes, and the old way of holding all of that is so different from the modern way that it changed my mornings forever. The second part of the piece is with the body, and I will not lie to you about the body because false comfort is not comfort. The body changes. The knees complain, the hands stiffen. The strength that was automatic becomes negotiated. The sleep grows shallow. The face in the mirror keeps a record of every year whether you consent or not. That is all real, and the peace does not come from pretending otherwise. The peace comes from a different question. The modern world taught you to stand at the mirror and ask, "What has been taken from me?" And as long as that is the question, every morning is an inventory of theft, and you will live your last decades as a robbery victim, bitter at time, mourning yourself while you are still here. My grandmother stood differently. I watched her, old, bent, hands like driftwood, and I never once heard mourning. And the difference was the question. She looked at her body and asked, "What has this carried?" Hear the difference in your chest, not what was taken. What has this carried? These hands, she would say, holding them up, these hands have planted 60 gardens. They have held 4 generations of babies. They have buried and blessed and built and mended. Of course they are worn. Sacred things get worn. Show me an unworn tool, and I will show you a tool that was never used for anything. She taught me that the old way sees the aged body the way you see an old canoe. The one that crossed 1,000 waters, patched, scarred, storied, and worth more than every new canoe on the rack because the scars are the proof of the crossings. Your body is not a ruin of what it was, my friend. It is a record of what you did. The lines in your face are where 60 years of weather and laughter and weeping actually happened. The stiffness in those hands is the bill for everything they built, and it was worth it, and you would pay it again. So tomorrow morning, at the mirror, in the bad light, when the old question rises, what has been taken, answer it with the old way's question instead. What has this carried? Stand there 1 full minute and actually answer it. The gardens, the babies, the crossings. Do that for a week, and I promise you something will shift that no cream on this earth has ever shifted. You will stop seeing damage. You will start seeing service. And nobody mourns a body they are busy thanking. and make peace while you are at that mirror, with the slowing too, because the slowing has a secret the fast years kept from you. When the body walked fast, the world blurred. You crossed 1,000 mornings at full stride and saw none of them. The light on the water, the neighbor's face, the season changing in one particular tree, all of it passed unseen at the speed of your competence. The slow walk sees everything. The old people knew this. It is why the elders were the ones who noticed, who read the sky, who caught the small signs everyone rushing missed. Your slowness is not only a loss of speed, it is an issued instrument, arriving exactly on schedule, in the season when your work, as you will hear before tonight ends, is precisely the work of noticing. The Creator, my grandmother said, slows the walker when it is time for the walker to finally see the road. The third part of the piece is with time itself, with the shortness, with the number of years behind being greater than the number ahead. This is the part nobody says out loud, so I will say it out loud, because the unsaid, as I have taught you, compounds. Underneath the flinch at the mirror, underneath the dread of birthdays, the real war was never about wrinkles. It is about the arithmetic. Getting older means getting closer, and every reminder of age is a reminder of the closing distance, and that is the actual thing you have been fleeing in all those mirrors, and no one makes peace with aging until they stop fleeing it. Now hear how the old people held this, because it is the deepest medicine tonight. My people did not experience time as a road running out. That is the modern picture, the road, the cliff at the end, the countdown, and it is a picture that makes every remaining year a smaller number, every birthday a subtraction. The old way saw time as a circle, the seasons turning, and a life as one turning of a great wheel, spring, summer, autumn, winter, and here is what that picture changes. On a road, autumn is near the end, and the end is the cliff, and autumn's only meaning is that winter is coming. But on the wheel, autumn is not a warning. Autumn is a season with its own work, its own beauty, its own purpose, the season of harvest, hear that, the season when everything planted across the whole year finally comes in. The wisdom ripens, the stories are told, the seeds, and this was sacred to my people, the seeds are gathered and handed on so that the next spring, which will come, which always comes, is already provided for. You are not near the end of a road, my friend. You are in the harvest season of a turning wheel, and the harvest is not the sad part of the year. Ask any farmer who ever lived. The harvest is what the whole year was for. And the winter that follows, the old ones did not flee it. They prepared for it the way you prepare for any winter, by gathering in, by handing seeds to the young, by drawing close to the fire. And they met it, when it came, as a season, not a scandal. I cannot take the arithmetic away from you, and I would not. It is real, and its realness is exactly what makes this autumn light so golden. But I can hand you the wheel in place of the road. On the road you are running out. On the wheel you are coming in. Same years, different truth. Choose the wheel. And I will tell you how I know the wheel is not just a pretty picture, because I watched my grandmother live her own winter inside it, all the way to the end. In her last season, when the body was failing and everyone knew, including her, especially her, I sat with her often, and I was young enough to still be afraid of what was coming. And one evening I asked her, because I could not hold the question in any longer, I asked if she was afraid. And she was quiet a while, in that way she had, and then she said, "Grandson, was I afraid of last winter? The one before you were born, the hard one." And I said, "I don't know, were you?" And she said, "I respected it. I prepared for it. There were nights it howled, and I will not tell you I loved the howling. But I had my wood in. I had my seeds handed out. I had my people close, and my stories told, and my accounts settled, and a winter cannot truly frighten a person whose wood is in." And then she looked at me and she said, The thing I have waited my whole life to be old enough to say to someone else, and I am saying it now to you. She said, "The ones who are terrified of winter are not afraid of the cold, grandson. They are afraid because they can feel that their wood is not in. Their seeds are still in their pockets. Their words are still unsaid, their blessings unspent, their stories untold, their people unheld. It is not death that torments the old," she said. "It is undone autumn work, felt in the bones as dread. So do the autumn work. That is the whole secret. Do the autumn work, and the winter changes its face." And she did her work. To the last weeks she did it. Handing, telling, blessing, settling. And I was there near the end. And I can tell you before the Creator, there was no terror in that room. There was a woman with her wood in. May every one of you watching come to your own winter exactly that way. And the road to it, hear me, the road to it runs entirely through the work of the autumn, which is the last thing I must teach you tonight. And the fourth part of the piece, the final part, is the one that turns the treaty into a life, and it is this: you must take up the work of your season. Because peace with aging is not only a way of seeing, it is a way of working, and half the torment of modern old age comes from this one cause, that the world assigned you no work for your autumn, and a human being with no work for their season will spend the season mourning the seasons before. The modern world tells the old, your work is done, rest, watch, wait, consume, be out of the way. And then it wonders why its elders wither, and its elders wonder too, not seeing that they were furloughed from meaning itself. My people never did this, and hear me, it was not kindness, it was necessity. The camp could not survive without the elders working their season's work, and your family and your world cannot either, though they have forgotten. And part of your piece, strange as it sounds, is to do the work anyway, uninvited. What is the work of the autumn season? You have heard me name it in many teachings, and tonight I gather it in one place. It is witness, you are the one who remembers, who carries what this family and this world came through, and the remembering must be spoken or it dies with you. It is blessing, you are the one whose approval still lands deeper than anyone admits, the grandchild, the grown son, the young neighbor, all of them still warm themselves at an elder's blessing, and you have blessings unspent. It is truth-telling. The season has freed you from ambition and approval, and the freed voice has duties the careful voices cannot perform, and it is seed-handing. Every skill, every story, every hard-won understanding in you, handed down deliberately before the frost. That is a full occupation, my friend. That is a reason to get up that no furlough can touch. And I will tell you what I have found at 70, doing my season's work every day in front of this fire, with all of you. I do not have time to mourn my age. I am too busy using it. The peace I promised you at the start of tonight is not a feeling that descends. It is a byproduct. It is what settles over a person who stopped fighting their season and started working it. The mirror quiets. The birthdays turn back into days. And one morning you will catch your reflection in the store window, the silver, the lines, the years, all of it, and the drop in the chest will not come. Something else will come instead, quiet, level, almost like a nod between old partners. There you are. You will think. There you are. And you will walk on into the golden part of the light with your seeds in your hands and your work waiting, at peace at last, with the great turning that carried you here and carries you still and has never once in all its turning made a mistake. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Native Way, 20 teachings, 100 pages. Written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together. Scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the comments. Read one chapter. Sit with it. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what has your body carried and what is the work of your autumn? I read every comment. And if this is the kind of conversation you have been looking for, subscribe to this channel. We are not collecting viewers here. We are collecting people who remember. Come back next week. I am not done teaching yet.